Yeah, we can get around. And
Oh, Maine.
where are you staying?
Well, my daughter on East Fifth Street.
Uh-huh. You don't have to go up steps or anything like that?
Well, she's in a regular apartment, so it's on one level.
Oh, she's in an apartment. Uh-huh.
Okay, you should be able to see now the Gemara, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Gavaltic, our recording is
Yeah.
on, and I'm just going to go back to Tzadik Beis Amud Beis because we need to start 7 lines from the bottom on Tzadik Beis Amud Beis, which is Gufa.
Okay. Or Sheshes.
I dropped my computer just now. I see it's not sensing my mouse again. Since this. Gavaltic. Okay, so all the way at the bottom, 7 lines from the bottom.
Okay.
Zog the hele Gemara. Gufa Amar Absheshes Amar Abasi Chutin Shebe Chelev. If there's veins or nerves or any type of sinews going through Chelev, Asur and Midrabanon, the Ein Chayavin Aleim, but there wouldn't be a Chiv Karis because it's only Midrabanon. But Shebe Chulya, if there was Chutin going through the kidney, the same halacha. Asurin ve'ein chayavin aleim. There's no chiyav. They rise up and midrabanan. They're also else. Chaylev and loivin chulya. Now the chulya has a casing of organ material, and in the center it's filled up with like a white chaylev material. The question is that chaylev inside the chulya, inside the kidney, is that considered chaylev midaraisa? Rabbi v'Rabchia chad osor v'chad shor. It's a machloikas. Because of that, Rabba memartitle, Rabba would scrape it all out. He would firzach le'iser. Rabbi Yochanan was memartitle, but Rabbi Asi goyim like. Rabbi Asi just held that the main artery going into the kidney is surrounded by fat. That's opening. You cut that off flush with the surface of the kidney, and anything that's inside you don't need to worry about. Amar Abaye Kavasej Abasi Mistavra, that anything that's chelev, if it's enclosed in other tissue, there's no iser chelev midaraisa. Amar Abba Amar Yehuda Amar Shmuel, and he's talking about a different type of chelev. He's talking about chelev haksalim. Let's just go on to Amud Aleph and see what state. Tzad Gimel Amud Aleph, which is Hein Gedaf. Chelev, if you have chelev that's covered over by meat, mutter. Alma. So Rashi explains, and the article is a very good cross-sectional picture of the animal. And the way it looks is, imagine you have the animal hung by its hind legs, the stomach is sliced open, and all the intestines are removed. So now you're looking at the cavity of the body. South of the rib cage, there's no more rib cage. Rib cage ends earlier. So all you see there is a big opening. If you look straight up to the top, there's going to be the koloya, it's the kidneys, and there's going to be chelev above those kidneys. We're not talking about that yet, but there's also a layer of chelev. Now, the way the animal is set up is there's muscles on the top, which are called the loin muscles, and then there's muscles that run along the entire side of the animal. Now, in between the muscle of the loin and the muscle of the side animal, there's a little gap where there's pure chelev there. Now, that chelev extends down around the animal's cavity, but we're extending down around the animal's cavity, it's actually sandwiched in between two layers of muscle. So, mamela, it's chelev that basar is choipa isa. In those couple of inches in between the loin muscles and the side muscles, there the chelev is visible when you're looking inside. But when you get down lower, that chaylev starts to go behind a layer of muscle tissue, so you don't see it. So that's what we're quoting here. Chaylev shabasar chayfa isai. The chaylev as it moves down the side of the animal. That's now in between the two layers of muscle. So looking at it from the inside, you don't see the chaylev. Mutter. Alma, what do you see? Sha'alak solam omer Rahman. The chaylev that's also is only the chaylev that's on the xolum, not in the xolum. If it's inside, embedded inside the two layers of muscle, that's not what the Torah is answering al chaylev. So hachanami, here too, when it comes to the kloyos, you could say she'ala kloyos omer Rahmana. The chaylev that's on the kloyos is what the Torah said is aser, which is where the main artery goes into the kloyos. There's fat on the outside. But the but the chaylev that's inside the kloyos is not covered by the Isser Torah. Beautiful. That's the Raya Rashi. Gufa Amar Baba Amar Buda Mashmuel chaylev Shabbos Chayfa Isai Mutter. Freit Gemara, is that so that it's a mutter? But via Amar Abba Amar Buda Mashmuel high tarba the Tusi Masni. The fat that's underneath those loins is osir. So how can you tell me that it's a mutter? It's osir. Zakta Gemara. Amra Abaye Be'ema B'chayeh Perukim Ifrik. Now, once again, if you refer to the very good cross-sectional diagram in the art scroll, you'll see there's two layers of muscle on top. Those are the muscles that are the masnayim. And then there's a little gap that you see a fat, and then there's the sides where the fat gets sandwiched between two layers of muscle. The problem is that's how it looks when the animals are alive, because the muscles move up and down. So at one point there's a gap between the two muscles, and the fat in between is very visible. But once the animal is dead, and you just look at the inside cavity, it looks like muscle all the way around. You don't see the fat. So the kasha was, how could that fat be osir? You don't see it. It's covered with muscle. Zokt Gemara Amar Abaye, you look at how the fat looks when the baby's alive. You see the muscles go up and down. So when the muscles from the loins go down and from the masnayim go up, so at that point there's a gap, and that's where the chaylev is visible. That's why it's osir minatayr. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ano lav tavchana. I'm not a shaychet. But lav bar tavchana, and I'm not the son of a shaychet. I don't know mitzias. All I know is when they hear and I remember the hachi haba amar be'midrasha. This is what they used to say the besmedrash. Behema bechayeh perukim nifrika. When the animal is alive, those muscles move up and down, and because of that, they create a gap where the chaylev is visible. Amar Baba, Amar Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Chaylev shalameses ubesakoisos. There's also chaylev on the stomachs. Now we learned about this a while ago, but there's chaylev that on those two stomachs. The halach is asurin. They're chaylev deraisa v'onish kares. V'zeu chaylev shalakerev. This is part of the chaylev shalakerev. Amar Baba, Amar Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. High tarba the kalibusta. The tarba the kalibusta, Rashi says, the kalibusta is the bone that connects to the spinal cord after the hips, and that bone is the transition between the spinal cord and the tail. So on one end of that bone is connected to the spinal cord, and the other end of that bone is connected to the tail. So that kalibusta, the fat on that kalibusta is also vanish kares, because right hanging below that fat are the kidneys. There are veins, arteries that go down the arms, the two arms of the animal, or the forearms. Asur, and they're also. Rab Shafa told Rabbi Yehuda Mashmuel, Moshe, you're a Talmud Chacham like Moshe. How could you say this? Mi Omer Rachman Seichel Bisra. It's regular meat. Where do you find an issue in the Torah for this? Omer Rava, so Rava answered him back, Moshe. In other words, he told him, Shafar, you're also Talmud Chacham. Mi Amar Achmona Achoil Doma. You think the Torah allows you to eat them? And those are arteries that carry a lot of blood, so you can't eat them. Talk to Gemara, however, if you slice open these arteries and let the blood drain out and you salt them like regular meat, you could even cook it. You don't have to roast it. After the keva, which is the last of the four stomachs, there's a section that leaves the stomach that goes towards the small intestine. There's chaylev on that. So the halacha is up to one amma reish ma'aya ba'am to the first amma boy greira, you have to scrape off all that chaylev. Why? V'zeu chaylev shaladakin. That's the chaylev shaladakin that's also midaraisa. Vam Rav Yehuda, chutin shebeukitz asurin. The chutin that are in the hip bone are also asur. And we're going to see more about these chutin very soon. Zog to Gemara, chamisha chute ispe bekafla. This bone that we're talking about has 5 chutin coming out of it. Tlasa miyamina, 3 come out of the right side. Utlasi mismala, and 2, utarti mismala, come out of the left side. But tlasa mefasli tray, each of the 3 turn into 2 for a total of 6 nerves going down the right leg. And tray mefasli tlasa, each of the 2 nerves that come out of the left side, each split into 3, which is again 6. So you have 6 nerves going down the right side and 6 nerves going down the left side. Why do I need to know that? They have to be pulled out. Nafkamina, the nafkamina is the shalif lahu adachamimi. If you just yank him from the top while the animal is still warm when it was freshly shechted, mishtalfi, they'll yank right out, even all of their little branches, you'll be able to pull them right out. But the Eloi, if you wait till it gets cold, then those arteries harden inside. Boy chatuti basrayu, it's going to be a big avoidance to now have to dig after each one to pull them out. Because those are all osir. Weiter. Zog to Gemara weiter. I'm assuming, I don't know what these chutin, their nerves, I'm not sure why exactly they're osir. I think they're going to be osir al chaylev because they go through the chaylev. The Gemara is going to say it's because they're impacted by the chaylev. Amar Abaye v'Teimer Rav Yehuda chamisha chute hava. There's 5 chutin that are osir. Kolasa mishum tarba. 3 of them are osir because of a chash of chaylev. Again, these are only their abanon. Utarti, and 2 of them utrein mishum doma because of the dam that's inside them. The tachlu, the kavlu, the chuyasa, from the spleen and from the hip and from the kidney, those are also mishum tarba because they go through an area that's full of chaylev. However, the yado delua, from the arm, which we already discussed, those arteries, the delua and those that are in the cheek of the animal, mishum doma. There's a problem of dam. Rashi points out, what about the 2 main arteries in the neck? How come the Gemara doesn't discuss those? So Rashi, those are really big ones. Those were pashat. We know we're focused on the smaller ones. Lamai nafkamina. What's the difference if this artery is also because of blood, or if this vein, or this sinew, or this nerve is also because of chaylev? The Gemara is very simple. If it's only osir dam, then you if you cut it and salt it, it's going to be fine. Hanach, but those that are isu b'shum chaylev, less lutakanta. There's no way for them to ever become kosher. You have to get rid of them. There's 5 membranes in an animal that are relevant to our discussion. 3 are osur because of a chash chaylev, utrei, and 2 are also mishum dama because of blood. The tachli, the kavli, the chuli also the same 3 set of 3 where there's chaylev there mishum tarba. But the beitzim of the animal, with the mukra from the moyach of the animal, mishum dama, those membranes are problematic because of blood, so they have to be again cut and salted. Rav Yehuda was hosting Levi, and he was preparing a choil, a spleen, and because of that, he was peeling off the fat. Now, he only took off the fat right around the main artery that goes into the spleen. He didn't peel off the whole membrane around the spleen. So what happened was, he only took off the big piece of fat that goes in with the big artery. But he didn't take off the whole membrane that was wrapped around it. So Levi said, Chavis Batfei, take it all off. Also, Levi's father came. Ashkechei saw Levi's concern about the rest of the membrane. And he said, your mother's father had anders gesagt. Hachi Amar Avu the Imach Mishum Derab, Umani Rabbi Yirmiyah Ba'ava, was your maternal grandfather. He said, Lo Yasser Torah, Elish Aladad Bilbad. The chaylev of the spleen is only that's where it pops out towards the artery, not the membrane around. So why are you so concerned? So Levi said, I'm not so sure about that my grandfather is right. Eini v'yomer Rav Abnuna, Tana we learned, krum shalal atchoil, the krum that's on the tchoil is osir v'ein chayav nala. And what was he referring to? That's osir v'ein chayav nala. Hechadami. Ilay mashaladad, if it's the main coming in, that's the raisa. So it must be that he answers the entire membrane with Rabbana. Amalei, so his father told him, Itanya Tanya, if you have such a brisa, I can't argue with that, and I understand why you want the entire spleen have its membrane removed. Gufa, Amar Rabbanuna, Tana we learned Krum Shal Atchol also vein Chayavin Alav, Krum Shal Gabi Kulya, the same thing, also vein Chayavin Alav. We learned the brayso that says Saibar Tchoil, Saibar Kulya. Chayev? Zakmar Tchoil Tchoil Kasha, Hakanegadadat, Hachaloikanegadadat. The membrane right near the connection, yes, that's where it's Chayavin. The rest of the membrane ain't Chayavin. Kulya Kulya Damin Kasha, Habila Habatasa. The ArtScroll explains that there's the Kulya, there's the actual kidneys that are in the membrane. Then there's a layer of fat. Then there's a membrane underneath the fat. So the membrane underneath the fat and the fat, that's mamish chaylev. The membrane that's between the fat and the kulya, that's only also midrabban. Zog to Gemara, bei kashilta. So either means smashed bayim. Rashi says beit zocher hamaurim begufay, meaning they're still connected but hanging by a thread. So they're most of the way cut, but they're still a little bit connected. There's a machlokes Reb Ami and Reb Asi. Chad Osir, one said it's Osir, else Aver Minachai. We know if you reach into an animal and cut its tchoil out, you shech the animal, it's not a treifa because it can lose its tchoil, but the loose tchoil inside it is Aver Minachai. So, huadin, if the beitzim are hanging on a thread, that's like it's dislodged and it's Aver Minachai. The Chachar Imanda Osar, the one who said it's Osir, let's turn on to Daf Tzad Gimel Amud Beis. Midoloi Kabarian, since these beitzim will never grow back and become healthy, so it's like it's dislodged, disconnected. So therefore, among the Shari holds Midoloi Kamisarachan. They don't go bad. They actually will not rot. So they must still have a life. They must still be alive. So it's not Ever Menachai. The Idich who answered said, Hi, the Loika Bisrachan, not because there's Askiyas in it, because it's sealed there in a vacuum. So it's not exposed to the atmosphere. The Loika Shal Avira, but really it's considered cut off. The Idich, Haidle Burian, the reason why it's not getting better is not because it's disconnected. It's Kechishuzu the Nagadu. It's a weak animal. So it doesn't have the koyach to rejuvenate itself. But the etzim cutting, the fact that it's dislodged, that doesn't in and of itself make it into that it can't grow back. Amarle Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Shama Barabba, Hani Beich Shilta Shorion der Mutter, but the Atlai Teichel. You're from Eretz Yisrael, but you're not allowed to eat it because your mother is from Bavel, and then Bavel is a machlekes Reb Ami and Rabasi, and you have to be machmer. Now, someone asked me in shul, Rabbi Ami and Rabasi were talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan. When Rabbi Yochanan died, they took over the yeshiva. So how would it be that Rabbi Yochanan would be quoting their psak?
Yeah.
But I guess they were good talmidim, so Rabbi Yochanan held that could quote their psak.
The Talmud Chaver, I think. It wasn't, they weren't.
Such things. Zog to Gemara Vaiti. Amamar Baravashi. Hani Bey de Gadi. You have the Bayim of a Gdi. It means any young born animal that has undeveloped Beitzim yet, it doesn't produce Zera yet. So these young Beitzim, Atlos and Yoimin, Shoryan, Belay Klipa. Until the animal is 30 days old, if you shechted it, you can eat those Beitzim without peeling them. They had an interesting diet built in. Vikan Velech, but once they're already past 30 days, if they produce zera, they're usher. If not, they're mutter. How do you know if they're producing zera? If you see streaks of red, meaning they're getting blood flow, asiran, that's a sign that they're developed and they're producing zera. Less sharian, then they will be mutter. Now, I just want to point out. Now, this litmus test of dam is that when it's less than 30 days, and it's saying the chumrah that even if it's less than 30 days, if there's dam there, it's considered usher, or it's saying even after 30 days, until you see the streaks of dam, it's not going to be requiring klipa. Do you understand what my suffix is?
Yeah, Pashas, it sounds from the Gemara like afterwards, after 30 days.
So even afterwards, you can be makel until you see the shirai simki. So I guess 30 days isn't really a real date. It's, I guess, the time where typically you would see the shirai simki. The imti beyu bishur. Umti is a piece of meat that the animal got damaged while it was alive, and because it had a lot of blood, is now concentrated in this meat. So it's not so easy to kasher. Bay, we know what those are. We just discussed that. Well, mizraki are the main arteries in the neck of an animal. Whenever there's a machloek shabach and Ravina, Ravina is always the one who takes the kula dik aside, and Ravach is always the one who takes the chomer dik aside, and we always pass in lakula like Ravina, Ravina lakula. Lavar mani tlat, except for these cases where it's Ravina is the machla, the Ravach lakula, Ravina lachomer, but we still pass in lakula, Ravach lakula. Umta the asmik. You had a piece of raw meat that got very red because it got damaged, and now there's a lot of blood in it. Chotcha, you cut it up. Umach, and you salted it. That is a defective manner of getting the blood out of it. And therefore, afilu l'kdeir shaper dam. You could even cook it in the pot. You don't have to roast. Tol anami b'shvuda. Or if you didn't salt it, cut it open, but you roasted it on a shvud, on a steak, again, doiv doma, the blood will drain right out. But what if you just put it on a bed of coals? A gumri, there's a machloikis pligi bar of achav ravina, kad omar, mishav she'ivi, the coals will still suck out the blood, and you can eat it. Kadamar mitzvah sabti adarabah. It's going to shrink it and shrivel it in and seal the blood in, and therefore it's going to be awesome. V'chein bay, v'chein misery, the same thing would apply to bayim and the arteries. What about reisha b'kivsha? You have the whole head of a lamb, and you want to burn off the hair from it, but you don't want to have a problem with that. So if you put it with the cut neck down, no problem. Dayiv dama. All the blood will drain out of the head. We shari them will be mutter. It's done if you light on its side, so now the dam is going to stay inside the head. Mikveh coffee, the blood will harden. What about oisve and echire? You put that upside down with the nose down. So do you say the nostrils are a good drain hole? So it depends. If you poke something in it, so it punctures it into the open cavity of the head, So now any blood in there will drain right out. Shari, below ulcer. Amri Vidam Shmuel. So Ikadamri, and the Chire Babes Shchita, regardless doif. The nose will drain even without poking. But even at studden, even if you lie the hair on that side, he does baby. If you poke a hole in it, showing it's going to be more because it's going to let the blood drain out. Going back to Giranasha, which is the parak that we're in, there are two Giranashas we know, the inner and the outer. So Apnimi, the inner one, which is Samach La'etzem, which runs along the thigh bone. Osir, that's Osir Midaraisa, the Chayav and Alav, and your Chayav Malchus if you eat it. Hita na Samach Labosar, the outer one that's near the meat, not against the bone. Osir, it's Osir Midarabanan, but the Ein Chayav and Alav. For the Gemara, we have a bride that it says Panimi Samach Labosar. We have a bride that it says the Panimi, which is Osir Midaraisa, is the Samach Labosar. So how could you say the Panimi is Samach La'etzem? Amar Bachabar of Kahana, it depends where. Right at the top, it's Samach La'etzem, including Mikla, but then it's a nerve. So then it embeds itself in the meat as it comes down and spreads out at the connections. So you could refer to it as Samach Labasar further down or Samach La'etzem further up. You called the one that's only Osir but not Osir Midaraisa Samach La'etzem. Vatanya Chitin Samach La'etzem. You called it Samach Labasar. Vatanya Chitin and Samach La'etzem is the one that's not Osir Midaraisa. Again, I'm reviewing the Pari Tafki. At the top, it's in the meat, but as it comes down by the last joint, right before the hoofs, there's no meat on that bone at all. It's just bone, gid, and skin. So there, it's keneged the etzem. There, it's Samach La'etzem. Itmar we learned. We know whose responsibility is it to get rid of all the chaylev? The butcher. What if they catch a butcher and they see he's sloppy, and there's chaylev left in the animal that he sold? Itmar tabach shenimtza chaylev acharov. What do you do with it? Yehuda Amar Rav Yehuda. I'm sorry, chaylev acharov. Yehuda Amar b'chesayra. The sheer kesayra is the threshold. Rabbi Yochanan Amar b'kazayis, the threshold is a kazayis. Amar Papa v'loy plead to that argument. Kan lal koisay. The threshold to give a malchus for this negligence is if he left over a kazayis. Kan la'ovrei. The threshold to take away his hechsher is if he even leaves over kisayir. Amar Zutra, kisayir is b'makam echad. That we take away his hechsher. If you find kisayir, that's if you found a piece of fat kisayir. You found the tiny little dots, that would not make him lose his license. But kazayis, where he gets malchus, that's if it's a filu bebeis v'gimel u'makayis. V'hilchasa la'alkoyze v'kazayis la'ovrei b'chusayra. And the Rishonim speak out, the Ran says, if he loses his license, how does he get it back? If he comes to Bezdin, and you can demonstrate that he'll be very diligent moving forward and be very careful to get rid of the chaylev properly, then he'll get his license. Zok Gemara Vayter.
I guess it was a question. I guess it was a question if he knew how to do it or not. That's what it.
No, it seems like he knew how to do it, but he wasn't being thorough. He wasn't applying himself properly. But it's interesting that you bring it up about knowing how to do it, because that's going to come out in the next Gemara.
Okay.
The Mishnah says the tabach is not neman for Giranasha. And I think our Meir argument says he's neman for Giranasha, or Bechacham he's neman for Giranasha and for Chaylev. The Gemara is going to ask where that's the Chaylev though. But at least by Giranasha, the Mishnah is ain't neman. Clearly, our Gemara that we just learned holds neman. Eventually, the Rabbanan said that they are neman. Amar Nachman Achshur Dari. You're going to tell me that the Dorish get better? We know the Dorish get schwacher. So why would they say Chazru Lai when they're on it? Dr. Gemara, no. The reason is, Meikar Davasavar Lakreb Meir, originally Lakreb Meir, that they have to go after every little bit. You have to be Mechated Acharov. Then it's a very big tircha. For that, we're worried they won't do it properly. Little beside the Pascal like Rabbi Yehuda, that only the main gid, which is very relatively easy to take out, that's what they were believed. So it's not Aksharidari. We never trust them to do very tedious work, but we always trust them to do a simple cutout. That's one shot. So it's not a question did they know or they didn't know. The question is, do we trust them that they're not going to be lazy? But the Ikad Masnula Seifa learns differently. They learn it's going on the Seifa. Then they said we don't believe him anymore. Amar Makwin and Bisman Azeh Nemanim again. So for Gemara Akshar Dari, now we're better than before. So Gemara, no. Miklar Savarua, originally we held like Rabbi Yehuda. That's why everybody was Naman, because that was easy. Mikar Savarua Rabbi Yehuda. But then others for Ruk Rabbi Meir. But then we passed like Rabbi Meir. But the problem is all the old time butchers, they weren't up with the latest news, and they still thought that we passed like Rabbi Yehuda. So they simply didn't know. So as long as they still remembered and they were hanging on to the psak of Rabbi Yehuda, we couldn't trust them, not because they were lazy, because they thought they were doing a good job. They didn't realize that you have to take it all out. But the hashta dan shuyel Rabbi Yehuda. But now that nobody knows of Rabbi Yehuda anymore, and everybody knows that the Torah lechat the Mehani they believe. So in this lashon, you see, you believe them. You're not lazy. Question is, they didn't know the facts. In the last lashon, the question was, could you rely on them, or are they going to get lazy? The Chum said, you're not Neman, forget. So what's the Chum mixing the Chaylev? Hachi Damar, Ein Neman Allah v'yala Chaylev, Chamoimim Nemanim Allah v'yala Chaylev. Now we're going to learn the next Mishnah, even though we're not going to get into the Gemara, but the next Mishnah opens up a fascinating insight into the meat business in the times of the Gemara. Mishnah. You're allowed to send a goy, a full yerech, even though the gira nosh is inside it. Why? The problem is, the goy might turn around and sell it to a yid. And the yid will think, oh, if it came from a yid, probably there's no gira nosha. But if it's a complete yerech and you can tell that it wasn't carved at all, then we're not worried. The yid will know that the gira nosh was not taken out. So the obvious question is, why aren't you worried about the guy giving him the vela? Why aren't you worried about Dosha Shuddas Almanayin?
Right.
So the Rishonim tell us that we're talking about a city. In those days, it was roiv of the butchers in the city were eaten. So Mabel, you can go Basarayv. There's no problem going Basarayv. You can go Basarayv that the meat is kosher because you don't have to worry. You're not concerned that they brought meat from a different city. You could be soymech and ganzen on it. Now the Gemara is going to get into if it's a city where they would announce if there was trade for meat. Because if you look at the Gemara says shlema in only a complete yerach. But chatucha, if it was cut up, you can't sell it to a guy because then the person buying it from the guy might not. He might think that the gid was taken out. What type of city are we in? If it's a place where the Jewish butchers don't announce we have a treifa, because if they announce that, then everybody in the city knows that they cannot buy meat from a guy today, because the treifa that was announced probably is going to get sold to a guy. But there are certain cities that ain't reason. In cities that ain't reason, if there's a treifa there, so there you can never buy from a guy at all, because it's possible that there's treifas there that were given to the guy. So why would they call out? Why wouldn't they call out? The reason why they would call out is you have to understand. What if a butcher in the olden days in a little village had a treifa? It would be a loss of a lot of money for him. So he needs to be able to sell it to a guy. Now, anyone's allowed to buy from the guy. They have the right. The problem is not buying. Buying, you can buy no problem from a guy. Right is kosher. Right is basar shchuta. The problem is, you know the right. You know people are going to buy from the guy. So you're allowed to sell to the guy. And the problem is, we need to be able to sell to the guy, because if you can't sell to the guy, it's going to be too expensive. How you deal with the animal that became treifa. So therefore, in certain cities, they made a minig that sell to the guy, and if there's a treifa, they'll announce it. In certain cities, they didn't make that takana because if you announce it's a treva, the guy won't either want to buy it, and then they won't be able to get rid of it. So instead you don't announce it, but then in those cities you weren't allowed to buy from a guy at all. It's just so interesting how this wasn't even a discussion of Isra v'Heter. The discussion is, at least according to Rashi, the discussion is, are you allowed to sell it to the guy because of a problem of a chash, and if you're not, you're going to lose money. So it was very real how to deal with meat in those days, so that the Yidden will be able to make parnasa and not lose everything. I just find it fascinating to see how they dealt with practical issues.
Didn't somebody say?
About this tomorrow.
Didn't somebody say last week that it's becoming a problem here too?
Because in the United States, because the main buyers for the hindquarters are no longer buying.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that problem is in Canada yet, but in the United States there is such a problem.
What's the reason they stopped buying it?
I'm not sure. I didn't get into the details of it. Could be there's just there's a lesser demand for meat, maybe.
You're not worried about the guy over shchutei chutz?
What do you mean shchutei chutz?
Bringing from another city. No.
The problem here is no, over there in the Gemara's time, no, because you didn't import. It didn't last long. Everything you bought for today. They didn't have now that you could chip it in the refrigerator's rock. But I have a feeling that I'm reading in the general news that meat has become so expensive, people can't afford meat anymore. So if people can't afford meat, there's a much lower demand for meat.
Meat, yeah.
So because of that, they don't need so much meat anymore. What they're slaughtering is enough. They don't need to buy the Jews' hindquarters. We need the geula.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good gebench tevach.
Okay.
Tomorrow we're going to learn an exciting daf.
Oh,
we're going to be learning about Gezel Gnevis Das to a goy.
Right.
Okay. Have a wonderful day.
Okay.